I once dated a young mother who worked 2 jobs and went to school full time, but still made it home every single night to cook dinner for her daughter and spend time with her. When have you seen young parenting go incredibly well? I might be a little OT here, but a friend of mine knows a couple who had a baby boy while they were both university students. To cope with all of it, they often had friends who were students too, babysitting the boy. When the boy went to nursery school, a teacher there yelled at him for something, to which he replied, "Don't yell at me." Form an argument. That's so cool. I can picture a small kid doing that. Seems really amazing. My sister was a hardcore rave machine in her early teens and scared the crap out of the whole family by being depressed and wild. She was a rape victim at 13, and taking ex-partying, sleeping with multiple partners is how she decided to cope. She dropped out of school and constantly talked about killing herself. As her older sister, I was really scared because I loved her so much and I'd helped raise her. Then she got pregnant at 17 and was determined to keep it. No one expected her to grow up and be there for the baby. We expected the worst. To everyone's surprise and delight, it's like she finally felt she had something to live for. She used her 9 months of pregnancy to put herself through technical school in record time and got her haircutting makeup license. She had her little baby like a champ. Took a few months to get through that first newborn phase at my mom's house. And then one day she decided she needed to try independence, so she marched into the most upscale hair salon in the city and demanded a shot at a job. She got it. She makes more money than I do now, has a college fund going for her now 3-year-old daughter, and is generally kicking butt. She puts 100% into parenting and her kid is the sweetest, most polite child. You can really tell she's being raised right. All of this, and my sister's only 21 years old. I think her daughter saved her life. I'm going to take this opportunity to praise my local 7-Eleven cashier Subway sandwich artist. I can't remember the third job she has. She has 2 grown daughters in college and a son in high school. Her daughters go to college full time and work part time. She works these 3 jobs to pay for her daughter's schooling and is saving up for her son's schooling. Nicest woman I have ever met. Give her an extra tip next time you go along. If you can spare it, of course. My mom went without a coat so my brothers and I could get new ones. I remember seeing the rips in the back of her old coat when she walked us to the bus stop. Frick poverty. Thanks mom. Rest in peace. March 2008. My oldest sister was 16 when she had her kid. She finished high school, got her bachelor's and is now getting 2 masters in Texas with a wonderful 13-year-old son. She'll be graduating in May. They're moving back to Florida, and he is incredibly proud of her. It's been wonderful to watch her raise him. Why don't people like her ever go on those teen pregnancy shows? My friend was a young single mother. She had been in love with the father, but he was violent and a cheater. The bub turned out to be autistic. My friend raised him by herself, at the same time as going to uni, and managed to pull honors in nursing. Now she looks after people with disabilities when she's not looking after her son, who loves to break dance. So proud of that little family. Hello, I'd like to submit my mom for Mom of the Century. She kicked dad out because he was a giant alcoholic. It was tough, but the right thing to do for a young mother. Unfortunately, he was the breadwinner. After a couple of years festering on welfare, mom went back to college while working and raising me. So, while attending night school, she worked 3 jobs. She took a 24-credit schedule so she could graduate faster and still help me with science projects. I loved them and went to a few competitions. Haha. I don't think she slept or had a social life, but she attained all that she hoped for. The best part about all that is not that she became able to feed us properly or buy a new car. She taught me about goals, personal responsibility, and how anything is possible but nothing worth having is easy. The hardest decisions always tend to have the best outcomes. When you have children, it should be a parent's #1 priority to look after them, and your mum sounds like the perfect example of someone taking on the responsibility. And by the little I have read from you, it sounds like she did a good job. Make sure she knows it. My stepmom had her first kid at 16. Now, the 2 of them have an amazing relationship. I've never seen a teenager trust a parent that much, or seen a parent be so understanding. My stepsister is open about her sex life and actually takes her mom's advice because she respects her deeply. For clarity, my stepsister and I are both 17, and my stepmom is younger than my dad. I have a friend who's 23 and has a 3-year-old with his girlfriend. They cook delicious dinners every night, have a great yard with a dog and a big garden, and they grill out on their patio. They go hiking with the kid constantly and take him on walks down their eccentric street full of adoring neighbors. Pretty idyllic childhood right there, if you ask me. Must be nice to be able to afford a house with a patio and a big garden at 23. Sounds like they're making the most of it. Good for them and the kid. Imagine 3 best friends from age 1, 2 guys and a girl. Since they were toddlers they have been inseparable, and as time progressed the girl and one of the guys fell madly in love. It never bothered the other guy. They were all still best friends. They even asked him to perform their marriage ceremony and there was not a dry eye in the house. The guys are going out one night to pick up Thai food for the very pregnant wife at home when kid texting on a phone runs a red light and they T-bone him going too fast. Airbag hits father to be in a 1 in a million spot and his chest cavity starts filling with blood from a torn valve or something. He has no idea he is dying and his only concern is for his buddy who has broken his back, leg, arm among other things. Father to be dies at the scene. Mother to be is devastated. Friend goes on to make a complete recovery, being motivated to not let his 2 best friends' child have any less of a life. He raises the child as if it were his own, helping to heal the wife who is his other best friend come to terms with her grief. Takes the child to school every day, picks him up every day, and most heart-wrenching are the conversations they have with the deceased father every day so that his son will grow up still knowing who his father is. Is he trying to move in on his best friend's life? Absolutely not. The wife is like a sister to him and he would never even consider it. He has put his own life on hold to try to fix a horrible situation and asks nothing in return, said for that the memory of his dead friend is never forgotten. This guy lives in a world of pain both physically and mentally because of that car wreck, but never lets the wife and child see it. He gets very defensive if you call him a parent and will tell you his deceased friend is the parent, he just can't be there. I understand, but I still think he is a wonderful parent. My whole body is alive with goosebumps at this story. What a wonderful parent. I went to high school with a guy who ended up getting his girlfriend pregnant freshman year of college. Now this was a guy who everyone wanted to be. He was smart, popular, captain of 3 or 4 different sports, and he was slated to go to an incredibly good school. He also was the type of guy who had a good head on his shoulders, and not once did he speak ill of anyone, and he was constantly volunteering his time. This was the very definition of the type of person everyone wanted to be. Well, his girlfriend signed over her parental rights as soon as the baby was born. Not sure why. It could have been for good reasons or bad ones. I don't know. This guy dropped everything, to raise his child. He went to a local school. He worked. He quit sports. He did everything in his power to raise his child, and all as a single father. If that's not the very definition of the right decision, I don't know what is. Although it wasn't her kid, my nana raised her brother when she was 10 and he was 5, because their mother ran off. My nana stayed home and would make a fuck ton of spaghetti every week for her brother, and would basically clean and pick up after him. I have no idea where they got that spaghetti in the first place. This lasted for about a year, until their mother came back. She still takes care of everyone, and is by far the most generous person I have ever met. I worked at an after-school program for inner city kids. I saw numerous examples of questionable, downright crappy parenting. However, we had these 3 little boys, brothers, who all attended the program. 1st grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and they had twin siblings in kindergarten, 5 kids under the age of 10. Their mom is 28. These 3 boys were, hands down, consistently the best behaved, kindest, all around best kids in the program. They were thoughtful, sensitive, funny, smart, which, unfortunately, is a rare thing in this school district. I have a drawing on my fridge from the 1st grader of he and I riding tractors. My son's preschool teacher has 3 kids. She's married, but I just don't know how she has the patience for her own 3 kids and the 12 kids in her class. Most preschool teachers like kids, but she just, like my son, was really freaked out by the fire drills, and she told me later that she held him for 20 minutes until he wasn't scared anymore. A girl I tutor is 15. When she was 13, she was raped and became pregnant. She had her son at 14, and she is doing the most amazing job. Her parents aren't much of a support system. They encouraged her to keep the baby, but only for the welfare money. She instead petitioned to live in transitional housing for teens who age out of foster care, and was approved. She has a studio apartment, goes to school full time. Her school has a daycare, so her son goes there and she sees him on her lunch and during her study hour. She just recently got a job at a local Chinese buffet a few nights a week. The grandma of the family who owns the place watches her son along with the kids in the family. She is on target to graduate high school, and her plan is to go to community college to be a hazardous waste removal worker. Random, I know. The most moving thing came at the trial of the guy who raped her. He was a cousin, and he said it wasn't about her. It was the idea that I had the power to ruin someone's life, and she had her lawyer interrupt for her to say my client would like it to go on record that the defendant ruined 17 minutes, not her life. So, I think my story will get buried, but I'm going to tell it anyway. I got a girl pregnant after knowing her for 2 months. I was 19 at the time, and I was not in any way in love with her. However, I'm from a small town, and was taught that a man takes care of his family. So the day after I turned 20, she and I were married. Then 5 months later, our son was born. I dropped out of college and started working so that I could support our family while she stayed home and took care of the child. I was a child playing house. I had no idea what I was doing or what being a man even meant. I hated it. I hated her. But I loved my kid, so I put my head down and went to work and stayed with it. But then we had another son when I was 23. When he was 9 months old, she said she wanted a divorce and I was only too happy to oblige. I went crazy. I suddenly had my freedom, and I was going to do everything I ever wanted to do but couldn't because I had responsibility. She moved in with another guy after a few months of moving out. So then I was really free to do what I wanted. This went on for a few years, and because of my job I only saw my boys maybe once a week. They had moved across town, an hour away, and so it was difficult to find time to see them. One day, I woke up to my oldest son in my bed crying because he never got to see me. I think he was 6 at the time. I sat there stunned, and then broke into tears and promised him I would fix it. The next day, I found a job as a substitute teacher. I would be making about a fifth of what I had been making, but would be off work at 4 every day. Then I moved to their side of town, so that I could drop them off and pick them up from school every day. While subbing, I realized that I loved it, and wanted to be a teacher. I put myself back into school and picked up another 2 jobs. Now, I see my boys every single day. I coach all their little league sports, and I'm the cub master of their pack. I am in my last semester of school now, and student teaching. Hopefully will be an official teacher in January. A sturdy pat on the back. This is great to hear. These types of stories happen more than you think. The reason we don't hear about them more is because they are so busy we don't see them. True. The people trying this hard haven't got time to maintain others and get on shut reality TV. I'm 22. I have a soon-to-be 4-year-old. I don't really feel like I do enough. I could do a lot more than I already do. I moved several hundred miles to support her. I got a job immediately out of high school in a state that had a high unemployment rate. I filled out over 200 applications, and by the end of the month I had 2 calls and 1 interview that led to a job. There's a touch of the backstory. I'm currently a 3rd shift manager. Job title changed to shift lead, but I'm the only member of management in the store at night, so yeah, manager. I work 10 PM to 8 AM. I spend the mornings with my daughter while her mother is going to school. Around 1-2 o'clock I go home and go to bed. I do this 7 straight days, and on the last day I stay up until my daughter's bedtime so I can do the routine. Brush teeth, bath every other night, tuck in, read story. She reads me her version of the story. Hugs and kisses. Good night. Check for scaries. Turn the light down. hugs and kisses again, and then my schedule reverses and the next 6 days I'm up during the day. The first night back to work I either don't sleep any, or I get in a short nap. A recent conversation with her mother made me wonder, is this a lot to do? She said it was and I still have my doubts about that. I'm pretty sure I could do something else too. Check for scaries made me do. You're a good dad. You're doing a lot more than many fathers would. I didn't know we were poor. We had delicious food. When I grew up and moved out, I realized that all the meals we ate were super cheap. My parents always shopped at thrift stores, but I thought that was normal. We went on vacation every year, but it was almost always hiking or something equally as free. I truly didn't realize it, though, until my parents told me how much money they make. I and my husband make 20k more a year than them straight out of college. I live on a street where pretty much every single house is occupied by a young couple with very young children. All the kids are always with each other, with the parents all hanging out. We always have BBQs in the middle of the cul-de-sac and I seriously think the kids just walk freely into each other's houses. I'm 17 so I kind of am out of the child loop on the street, but it seems like a pretty awesome childhood right there. Oh, they also each have one of those gnarly little electric cars to boot. I live in an area much like this. It's a lot of fun for both kids and adults. My parents had me when they were both 18 years old. I can't say my mom was a 3-job having nursing student, which is freaking amazing. But with a pretty much absent father, I credit her, my grandparents, and aunts and uncles to raising me. It really does take a village to raise a child, and I'm forever grateful for my mini village. Well, I might not be parent of the year, but I work my butt off for my kid. I go to school full time. I'm interning for a congressional campaign, and almost everything I have saved goes to gas and daycare. I've sold my TV to make sure he's well taken care of. I live with my parents and drive an hour one way to school just so he gets more interaction with people who love him. I have no social life and it took me 4 months to save enough money to buy a computer after my last one died. His father hasn't seen him for a year and hasn't paid child support since June. In addition, he stole $750 from my bank account. It's been hard, but every day when I come home, he always runs into my arms and giggles. It's the best feeling in the entire world. Sounds like you should at least get a nomination for Parent of the Year. One of my HS students was pregnant at 16 and had her kid on the week of her 17th birthday. She graduated with her class, is a great responsible mom, is still with the kid's father, and will soon be attending college. I like this story because it sounds really positive and I can still comprehend the reality of it. Some of the stories on this thread are just so over my head it's hard to relate. For example, I don't understand how it's physically possible to work 3 jobs, go to school full time, and raise a child. I shock most people when I tell them I've got 3 children. I'm 25 years old and my then girlfriend, now wife, first got pregnant at the age of 17. We'd been together since she was 13 and I was 14 and are still going strong. We now have 3 boys, we work full time, own our home and have 3 kids age 5, 3 and 6 months. I suppose when she first got pregnant at such a young age people expected the worst, but I don't think age is a barrier to being a good, hard-working parent. I mean, there are some proper crappy parents who have kids when they are in their mid-30s. If anything, it served to focus us and gave us a sense of purpose. But I wouldn't advise having kids so young. There are a few things I can't do now due to having kids that I would have liked to do. So get that stuff out of your system and then have kids. I hate judgmental people who think young parents equals bad parents. And I'd like to think we do our bit to prove those people very wrong. One of my best friends got his soon-to-be girlfriend accidentally pregnant when he was 20. That guy was and is pretty much the most rascal in our group of friends. Everyone was a bit dumbfounded when they heard that he's going to be a father. Even the mother had some thoughts that he would run away. But nope. He took it incredibly well and started prioritizing his life. Now the kiddo is 1 year old and my friend is working to get money for the family, and the mother is just finishing her school as a physical education instructor. My friend pretty much had to delay his plans to go to school, so he can provide food and money for the family. Even though they are almost always together and with the kid, my friend has more than enough free time to hang with his friends. Their parents even takes care of the kiddo once in a few weeks, so they can have some together time. I haven't seen a father so dedicated to his child like my friend is. Even though we all had our doubts, everything ended up being more than well, and I really hope I can be such a dedicated father when I get kids. When my mom and dad dug out their $401k to send me to college, and now I have a good job and I'm living on my own. My life ain't perfect, but I have a great set of folks. I feel the same. My parents are currently funding an education that would destroy almost anyone's bank account, and I can't seem to thank them enough. I hope to pay them back someday. This is probably going to get buried, but here it is. After the fall of Saigon, my dad, who volunteered to stay behind to evacuate civilians, was thrown in a re-education camp for 7 years. My mom was thrown in one for the better part of a year. After she got out, she visited my dad and brought him food even though he had to travel for days to get to him. After he got out, my dad piloted a boat through pirate-infested waters with several hundred people to get to a refugee camp in the US with no money to his name. He and my mom worked multiple jobs and paid my sister's way through to an Ivy League college and to financial success. I have quite the parents to look up to and a legacy to fulfill. Yes, you do. I had my daughter at 15 and my son at 16. My husband was 18. He tried to commit suicide 3 or 4 times, unsuccessfully. The last attempt was fairly gruesome. He moved back in with his mother, leaving me alone with 2 babies at 17. I was on public assistance while I finished high school and did 2 years of college. I got a job doing CAD, bought my first home at 21. I'm now 36 years old. I'm a firefighter paramedic and my children are intelligent, happy adults. My birth mom was 15 when she had me, and she put me up for adoption. This might be controversial, but I think that's 100% the best thing she could do in her position at her age. I think that is what gave me the best life possible. I once saw a man get the crap kicked out of him when the PS3 first came out. It was outside of a Walmart at about 1 AM or so, and he never let go of that system. I ran over after the beating to ask if I needed to call an ambulance for him and he told me no. I just need to get this home to my son. Freaking awesome dad right there. I'm a 35-year-old male and I raise my children, 7, 8, on my own with no participation from their mother. It's a lot more common than people notice. Threads like this aren't as successful because Reddit likes to stand in judgment of people. I was a health teacher, gave realistic sex ed, that is, not abstinence only. The vast majority of my students who got pregnant in high school ended up being good parents. It's not what I would have wished for them. High school pregnancy puts dreams and development on hold, but most managed it very well. Threads like this aren't as successful because Reddit likes to stand in judgment of people. I do find the amazing amount of judgment cast on Reddit with very little information to be astounding at times, but this particular thread is climbing fast. I'd like to hope that mixed into the some 2 million users, there are few people who enjoy celebrating feel-good stories. I don't know if this is as good as any of your stories, but my mom and I have never had a great relationship. When I was younger and my parents were divorced, she was very selfish and forgot about us a lot. As soon as I was leaving for college, it's like everything changed. Let me clarify, we never talked. We were awkward around each other most of the time, and usually were at each other's throats when I lived at home. After my first week of college, I was insanely stressed out, couldn't afford a book loan, no payback method, and I was already behind in a few of my classes because of this. I call my mom, cry on the phone for about 30 minutes with her silent on the other end, just listening, and she tells me not to worry about a dang thing and that she'll call me back in a few minutes. When she called me back, she told me that she called my dad. They hardly speak since the divorce, so that was amazing that they actually worked together on something. She told him what was going on. He offered to throw down $300 for books, and my mom matched that. I started crying again and told her it was too much money for just books, and she told me how proud of me she was, that I was the first one to go to college and all that, and how this was just a little reward for being such a great daughter. Also, when my very new HP laptop broke, don't ever buy that crap. ever. My mom just straight up gave me her laptop and said, "You need this way more than I do." Seriously, some selfless crap. I love her so dang much. Ever since that, we've been extremely close. My dad also busted his butt for us 3 girls. He was a truck driver and we only got to see him once every 1-2 months. But whenever he was in town, he came straight to us, made sure we had school supplies, bought us clothes, groceries, anything we needed. He always got us the most expensive Christmas gifts, even though we knew he couldn't afford it. And he frequently told us that he wasn't a good enough father, but that he tried very hard. I freaking love my parents. Oh, and just a side note, they got back together this year. TLDR. My parents are awesome providers and are very selfless people. They decided to combine powers once again this year and are now back together. I love my family. My mother is amazing. She's also an alcoholic. She had my sister at 19 and me at 20. Even so, when I was little, she worked 3 jobs to keep her head above water. She would drink, and that would suck. But even when she'd stay home drinking, she made sure we had a babysitter in the house with us. Sometimes she'd go out, but we still had a sitter. Birthdays and holidays were always made really special with homemade and lavishly decorated cakes, and she still spent time with us almost every day. Rainy days were the best, because we'd do arts and crafts from the Richard Scarry book. I never once went hungry. I never once got left in the car, and I never once was in any danger from neglect. Not even close. If you know someone that is an alcoholic, you probably know there's not really a choice on whether or not to drink. I know friends with alcoholic parents who grew up in awful, unsafe conditions, and are still reeling from it now in their 30s. My mother is an alcoholic, but she was still an amazing mother despite the disease. That amazes me every day. She didn't have the personal strength to quit at the time, but she'd be damned before anything ill befell her kids. She's an alcoholic, but she's 6.5 years sober now. I could not possibly be any more proud to be her daughter, considering all the bulls she's gone through in life, and still come out well on the other side. It makes me feel like a badass to introduce people to my mother. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.